Hey everybody, my name is Matt, and welcome to the first ever project breakdown analysis video. Honestly, whatever you'd like to call it. And it's been a long time since I've decided to really sit down and try to record something for the sake of commentary in a lot of ways. It's been a long time since I've tried to make anything along the lines of color bass or rhythm, dubstep type stuff, and I'm very proud of this piece. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know everything. I'm a production wizard because I'm not. Chances are, if you go and Google search, you're going to find infinitely more interesting ways to produce music than what this is. But at the same time, I would like to share this piece with you, and I'd like to break it down and more or less discuss my thought process, give some commentary, some additional context behind certain decisions I made within the mix, the sound design itself, the direction of the track, and I also would like to show off the cover art as well because there's some really cool storytelling I think to be had there. That being said, the kind of video that this is designed for are more for long form content enjoyers that just happen to enjoy music production as a subject. If you're looking for quicker, more disjointed, how to make sounds, do this crap, just honestly go find somebody else right now. I will have that kind of content in the future, but for the time being, you're better off just clicking out of this video and going. However, if you're hungry, you're reading something, and you want something to watch that's not doomer content or anything like that, and you just want to watch some guy talk about his project file and how happy he is with the result, then you found the right place. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and we're just going to kind of get into this. Now, I do want to apologize for one thing, or two things actually, before we really jump into it. I just hit my head there. I'm a little sick, I'm a little stuffy, and I do want to let you know that I'm trying to figure out my microphone settings. So if you hear a lot of inhaling, exhaling, I do apologize. I'm hoping it doesn't distract you too much. And not only that, I just got my wisdom teeth taken out. So I'm still a little beat up. I'm gonna be real. I'm dealing with some allergies and stuff. It's April, and April kind of sucks, low key. I like May better. It's almost done though. We're just gonna go into this. So this project to me was the first time, and it kind of felt like you broke the mold a bit. And I'll just kind of get into why. This track, funny enough, actually has 32 tracks, and 32 tracks is a little bit less than half of what a lot of my future funk, vaporwave, more sample heavy type stuff is. And that's just the style of how I go about chopping and sampling. But in the case of this piece is in a lot of ways pretty generic, but to me it represents so much more because it's the first time that I did this kind of stuff. Like, I came from a funk background, and that to me is already just saying a lot. I just kind of want to let you know that this is not the original project file. This is actually stems that I just drug back into here. And the reason why is because I have an old laptop. And to be honest with you, if I tried to play the real project file, all of it at once, it's going to sound like a glitchy Pokemon battle cry. And we don't really want that to be the case. And it's going to be quite distracting. I have some stems here, and there'll be some problems I'll explain a little bit later with how this rendered, but it is what it is. But I do actually have the completed version over here, and we're going to get into it. One thing I always really appreciate in the rhythm dubstep EDM scene is a good pad. This is what I ended up with. Now, I use Vital for most of my sounds because I'm broke. I'm not paying for CM2 right now. Vital is insane. And Vital and I, we worked together. We worked very intimately, and we came up with this cool pad. Dude, it is just so dreamy. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not quite PlayStation, but it has that right tone. Like, it's something that just, whoa. I'm probably freaking y'all out with these hand motions, but that's just the energy that I get from it. And a lot of rhythm tracks, especially the ones that really want to set the scene for like a soundscape, right? Like, anything could be white noise, people talking, going through the woods, walking, whatever it may be. I find that so unbelievably appealing to listen to. And that is sort of where the inspiration for this comes from. Now, I wanted to start out with a strong pad because, like I said, I think a lot of it is presentation. Kind of like peanut butter and jelly, two things that go really together, is a really nice Reese. Let me see if this is the Reese button or the Reese sound. Yeah, okay. These two together, and again, I'll have the completed context over here with it, but this is just the stemmed version. I'm just going to show you what these two sound like together. You see how, like, there's the weight that it just kind of carries under in that pad now. That's what I love. And these are two very basic things to add, but it's just sort of like, don't fix what ain't broken. You know what I'm saying? It's the old reliable. Now, these two sounds I really do appreciate together, like I said, but I did want to introduce this third element here, and I'm pretty sure these are the vocals that I added. Either that or it's another layer of something. Actually, we'll just find out together, because remember, this is long form content, so more talking, more content. Okay. So these three together, this is this cool little ARP that I made, and I was aiming for this sort of like pseudo fairy tale type energy. So whenever these three sounds come together, you sort of get like this, I think ethereal might be the right word, I want to say. And you can kind of hear like almost a timbre in the pad. I was messing around with just different signal modulation, and I think I accidentally activated it, and I couldn't tell you how I did it. I'll show you what the preset looks like in Vital, and if I remember, I might even just leave a download to it, or I'll save it for the sample pack that I've been working on for everybody. These go together really well. Like I said, the timbre here just adds like a bit of a roughness that I really like. So these together just make sense, and that to me is perfect. In the full context of this, I'm pretty sure everything except the drops, funny enough, actually sound pretty cohesive. So we're going to play a little bit of everything, and I'll introduce the elements. A lot of these are like basic, you know, impacts and stuff. They just kind of help set the floor a little bit more, as you could hear immediately. If I could find it, I do have this nature walking. There it is. So funny enough, I actually went outside. I made a TikTok on this as well. I recorded the process of it. I added these sounds. I just went out to my backyard and I brought this, I don't even know if I want to call it like a shitty mic, but this mic that I got from an antique store in town, and I just brought it out and I used it as a way to capture legitimate audio and make the experience accurate to real life in a lot of ways. This is just unplanned, all organic. It's not downloaded from a sample pack. Not dissing you if you do that, but it's there. It's right here. I really enjoy, like I said, this type of stuff because it helps build the soundscape. These two together, it's like, whoa, you know? Like, it just works. So whenever we build everything in here, as you can see, I didn't want to overstuff your ears with stuff. I kind of just wanted you to feel like you were like observing almost in this part. Like it's all about like that, okay? I love women's voices in dubstep, like in rhythm. It's pretty good. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? Like it's really cool. Yeah. I just these as just setups for a drop peak, and they're simple. It's just simply delay, maybe a little bit of Valhalla, but a really nice big reverb, dude. Like bread and butter. It is just, it's S tier. I love it. So we got this going on.
And now the evening unfolds.
We're not going to play the drop here, okay? We'll get into that a little bit later because the sound design for that is interesting to say the least. But before we move onward, I did want to talk a little bit about the pre-drop vocal. For the longest time in this track, there wasn't going to be one. It was going to be some sort of type fill, something like nice dramatic tom fill with a lot of reverb, or I don't know, just something maybe a bit more acoustic. And I just ended up settling with the pre-drop vocal because I really like just the sound of this one. I don't know why, I just do.
And now the evening unfolds.
Like it just sounds so like, okay, here we are. And I really appreciate that. Pre-drop vocals, in my opinion, are always a way to show good personality in a track. Sure, maybe you've heard a pre-drop vocal 1,000 times before, but once again, don't fix what ain't broken and don't eat it. You know, it's the reliable, or one of them. So I'm pretty sure these as well. I think these are just regular vocal chops I did. Yeah, okay. Funny enough, these are Vokes. These are just random vocals that I found, and I just micro-chopped them, and we'll get into all that a little bit later. I want to show you all what this sounds like in the actual track with the final processing. And just to give you a heads up, it's going to be significantly louder than what you just heard. So we're just going to listen to it. Turn it down a little bit. For my ears, at least.
And now, the evening unfolds.
One more thing before we move on to sort of the drop, and you probably noticed it because it wasn't the one thing that I really talked about, and it was the riser, the effect that I did here. Is this it? Yeah, it is. So, funny enough, this actually uses a chroma knockoff, and I'll talk again about the sound design a little bit later. But this is a really nice uplifter, whatever the hell you want to call it, white noise riser that kind of had like this kind of thing going on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, choo, choo, choo. I just stretched it out and I panned it from left to right because, again, we're building that soundscape. And what really sells a soundscape to me is that there is variation in your ear. Something plays here, here, and it's communicated well through a nice roomy reverb, delay, whatever it may be. Either way, it just travels around in your headphones or your sound space, whatever you're listening to. And it just adds a little bit of depth, right? I mean, I think it's always cool when I hear sounds that are like, whoa, 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 and they just go across the spectrum and you're like, what? Whoa, that's insane, you know? So immersive. Let's actually go back real quick. Where did it go? There's so many stems still, even though this is like really tight, bro. Like, honestly, I usually have about 60 to 70 tracks for like super sample type stuff, but and that's not even automation. That's the real funny part. I like to sample. I'm a sampler at my end of the day. Let's actually go into this drop a little bit. I'm gonna play this back, and again, volume warning if it ends up being that way. I can't really tell. I'm not gonna go back and play it.
And now, the evening unfolds.
All right, so we're gonna pause that for there, and we're gonna get into sort of the nitty gritty. Now, as you heard, that's the final version. So believe me, whenever I say I'm a little confused, or at the very least, I probably misclicked something and I'm being stupid. But this is not gonna sound like what you just heard. Ready?
And now, the evening unfolds.
It's like, okay, twin, go up. I'm pretty sure there's like a delay effect that I forgot to turn on or something along those lines. Either way, the meat of this project is primarily done with that chroma tool that I very briefly mentioned a few moments ago. I like the sound that these chroma, bismuth, Vocodex effects, I like the color base sound design approach. I really do. People give it flack, saying that a lot of it sounds the same after a while, and I guess you could make that argument, but dude, I mean, a lot of things sound the same. I think we've reached a point sonically where everything that could exist within a genre has already been created. So now it's just simply about finding ways to uniquely, in a lot of cases at least, create these sounds, possibly again, but arrange them in a very tasteful way, right? Hell, half of Rally House tracks use the same synth, and that's just part of the personality of it. So in a way, I think a lot of these bassier genres kind of should do, and maybe they already are, and I'm not paying attention too much, but just, it's okay. We're having fun, right? Like I said, I would hate to listen to what these sounds actually sound like without any sort of chroma processing, because it ain't gonna sound anything like this, because chroma does so much to kind of carry that sound into bring it to this really nice, colorful texture, right? I'm just going to keep using the word colorful. You're going to get tired of it, and I do apologize. This is fairly basic sound design, all things considered. From what I remember in the preset, I'm just doing some basic LFO modulation. I tried to give it a nice bounce with the shape. That's why it kind of like goes in the way, if you look closely, this little like womp womp. That is with Vital. Again, Vital's just kind of my tool of choice whenever it comes to music production these days. So yeah, fairly basic. Same thing with the bass. I mean, it's just... pretty straightforward. Now, what I really enjoy doing during this piece is the ear candy, or whatever the kids be calling it these days. It's like little bits of unique sounds and textures and Foley, vocals, whatever it may be, to kind of help give that track that extra layer, that extra sauce, if you will, beyond just basic big chords, big bass, big drums, right? How I ended up achieving this is kind of a fun story because I love scavenging for just the weirdest crap that you can find imaginable. Anything that kind of sounds like it'll work, chances are it was thrown in there at some point during the production. And in a lot of cases, it slows me down because I take forever finding stuff, but I make sure to really sit down and listen to things the way that they are. So the cool part about at least how I go about doing this is I like to listen to everything all at once. I like everything plundered. It's just kind of how I am. Chroma did a lot of heavy lifting with this once again, and as I said, it's just kind of the meat and potatoes of this piece. I ran a bunch of random vocals from different origins and just chopped them up religiously, trying to come up with something that just kind of had a cool personality to it. It's very simple. I mean, it's nothing mind-blowing. I'm sure you probably have come to a similar conclusion in some of your work as well, but I'm no different, I guess, right? So we got... So, fun fact, this little noise right here, that's my voice. I ran that through Chroma. So it just kind of... These are all random vocal bites, like I said, that just kind of came across, or that I just kind of came across. And I really like this because I tried to bounce these two against each other. There's a reason why they're not quite perfectly on the grid with each other, because I tried with my best to make it so that way they have that natural swing by being off grid, off beat a little bit. But that's the sound, right? So in context of the actual drop, like we were going back to before, we found ourselves in a situation where they kind of just served as like this really fun, plucky off chant. But how they're created is it's not with Vital, it's with Chroma and layering, I think, 3 distinct layers of sound, including one where I desperately had to come up with something. So I just turned on my microphone on my iPhone and just kind of went to town, if you will. Just going like, ooh, ooh. Trying to create this like off chant. So I really appreciate it. Now, a little bit of personality with how I go about producing music, and this is the dumbest thing. The majority of my pieces, they have an 80s, like a sampled section of a song from an 80s track in it. And I'm going to keep it a secret to which part of that I actually did. I want to see if y'all could potentially pick up on it if we ever get to it. Anything's on the table. It just ultimately depends on what I'm thinking. Because again, I'm coming from that vaporwave and future funk background. So I just happen to have a lot of these things on site, and I do a lot of sampling in order to make sure that we are legally distinct, if you know what I'm saying. I want to kind of go back a little bit to, if you give me a moment here, our drop style. If I can find, I'm pretty sure this might have it, right? Yeah, we'll talk about this for a second. So this just happened to be on the same channel as the pre-drop vocal. In the case of this, sometimes I'll just bounce between the same effect plugins or effect setups, effects chains that I have, and just throw them on there. And in the case of this, it just worked. So I kept it. And it's a very small sound. You're not going to notice this on first listen. Hell, you might even not notice it at all until I just pointed it out. And that's okay because it is there. I make sure that it is present, but it's not something that you're immediately going to jump to. There's all these tiny little details, man. I'll tell you. This is what I wanted to talk about. These sounds here, these are like a Spanish woman, or excuse me. Yeah, no, it is. She's just going to town. I can't understand the language. I just think the voice is beautiful and very valley. And I ran it through Chroma. And played around with the formant and the pitch shift. And I got this cool off hook. So I just love that. I don't know what it is about that, but that tied it in with this bass. That to me is just it. One thing that I really like to do in my pieces, and you're probably gonna laugh at this, I think it's kind of corny. I try to chop the song name, and not in every case, but the song name in the actual tracks. In my brain, it almost sounds like it says, and it's just because of how we phonetically hear things, like we hear things phonetically. Um, I sampled that and I try to make it sound like it was saying felt good, but it's not actually saying that. But in the context of the track, in my ears, it sounds like it. Like it just kind of sounds like it says felt good, but it's the context of everything around it. You see what I'm saying? It sounds more like it says felt good because everything is playing at once. And then that is what creates these cool phrases more than the actual individual soundbite itself. It's all about layering. It's a layering game, dude. It's nothing crazy. And that's what created this. And it's just a fun little vocal flair. So in the song, I think it just adds a little bit of edge whenever you hear it and you pick up on it. So I really do enjoy doing that. But like I said, the drop is very basic sound design as far as the foundation goes. It's about those little details that just kind of layer on top of each other and we create this fun, bouncy, in the case of this track at least. He just adds personality, and not everybody thinks in the way that I do. I don't think like everybody else. I don't claim to know everything, and I don't, and I probably won't forever. But that being said, I like doing this like this. It was fun. It was such a good time, and it was so refreshing trying something different, right? Like you gotta respect the grind, right? Like it's always nice doing that. Now, to the 10 of you that are actually going to listen to this track, I appreciate you. Shout out, right? We're going to go ahead and move on to one more thing as far as the drop goes, and then I want to talk about the interlude section a bit. And then we'll kind of retread some of the ground for the drop, then we'll talk about the outro, and then we'll just go from there. We'll go into the project file, and I'll show you some other stuff, and we'll go from there. Drums, right? They're big. They're big drums. This loop specifically will be in a future sample pack, so I implore that you use it as a reference, maybe as a potential base layer that you would then add stuff onto. I tried to process this as effectively as I could. Again, I'm not a professional, so somebody could probably tell me I did it wrong. That being said, it's right here. It will be in a sample pack in the future, near future, and I just encourage you to use it if you're interested in doing rhythm or you just want to have a loud drum layer to add into whatever you're doing. It was a very intentional mix decision to have your drums big, right? Like that's part of, I think, what makes rhythm is not only just the sounds, but big drums, right? Big logic, big soundscape, big sound system. And these drums pretty much just do that. They're nothing fancy. They're actually using pretty basic sounds, all things considered. But I will tell you, the snare has like 6 layers of different like claps, foley's, just things like that, and a really fat fucking tail in order to get what I wanted out of this. That's kind of what this is. But again, just stay tuned. It'll be in a future sample pack on release. And hell, if whenever I decide to maybe start a Patreon, if we end up somehow miraculously getting that going, I will be sure to have future stuff like this just for up for grabs if you're like a $1, $2 subscriber. Just very basic stuff. We're going to go ahead and move on to the other part of the song that I really like, and that will be our interlude section. So let's go ahead and play the interlude, right? Do we call this the interlude? Hold on, is it supposed to be called the interlude? I don't know, whatever. The part that gets to the second drop, right? I got a little carried away. I was supposed to play that part, but I like that part. We're gonna go back over here, and I'm gonna talk about the production logic, if you will, behind why this part sounds the way that it does. So again, big fan of soundscapes, big fan of presentation. I really appreciate that whenever I hear rhythm artists, especially ones that favor this more cinematic approach, if you will. I just like it, right? So this part specifically actually takes the same pad that we heard before. It's going to be up to an octave, so it sounds a little bit brighter. I just sort of did this because it felt like a proper decision without it kind of just retreading the same sounds as before. If I can find it, I want to show you something else too. I like to use the granulizer tool every once in a while, and this is a pretty basic color-based trick, but a lot of it is finding cool ways to make these clean textures. So let's take a listen. I know that you're gonna have to hear like that little impact or whatever for a moment, but this is me typing away on my laptop, I guess, and try to put like an iPhone mic right against it. And this just utilizes the granulizer and chroma tool to, just kind of give it that extra colorful clickiness, right? It's a small detail. You're probably not going to notice it on the first listen. That being said, though, it's there, it's present, and it is just kind of meant for you to have a small extra layer of sound to have on top of it. So now we can talk about the fun stuff. Oh yeah, bro. I went there. This one was crazy. It took me about 3 hours to find a guitar VST in the hopes of using Destructor, which is an FL Studio stock plugin, and just by Frankensteining that with some of the presets they had and playing around with a few small things in the actual tuning of that guitar, I was able to create like this really nice droned out guitar, right? It's got a little bit of that distortion, like a nice strummy guitar, I think is the word I want to use, but it's nothing fancy. But again, we're not necessarily aiming for that. But what inspired that specific edition was I've been listening to a lot of Frank Zappa recently. I don't know if y'all ever listened to him, but really cool guitar solos. And this isn't even sounding like something that they would realistically do, at least from the songs that I've heard recently. But the introduction of the guitar was sourced from me just happening to listen to something that just has gnarly guitar solos. So I really like it. And in the context of it, it helps elevate, right? So it's layering on top of that awesome respace that we have from before. And in this time, we're going up. We're trying to kind of elevate the stakes a little bit, is kind of how I like to think about it, in the context of the track at least. So I got these really nice reverbed out claps as well, and these will be part of that pack that I've been telling you about. A lot of this stuff I tried to like keep at least like a soundbite of it, and I have it in a few different USBs and storage systems that I could just kind of pull from and assemble if I ever need it for people. In the case of this is just a really nice echoed out rhythm clap. So this was an interesting addition too, because you don't really hear it, but I promise you it is there. It's just something else that just kind of happens. Layering, layering, layering. This is a loop that I found, and I just kind of chopped it up and created that. So, and again, you also heard those little vocal bite additions. I'm pretty sure that is what was just in there. Yeah, it was, which was, yeah. So, as you can see, it's nothing crazy. Again, just a big game of layering. Let me... Yeah, so this is another fun addition as well. Going back to that Frank Zappa influence, Flex has a really nice preset. It's called like Britbulb. And again, using that Destructor, tuning things in a way that just to taste, I guess is the right term. I threw that together. And that on top of everything else, once they start to come in, it's just meant to kind of, again, elevate those stakes, right? It's just all about variations of a similar sound while building that intensity. So. As you can see, It's all about round two, right? That is exactly what this is trying to communicate, at least what I'm trying to communicate to your ears is we're retreading a very similar intro, but we're changing up the notes, we're adding in a few new things. We're going forward with the context that you now have from the intro and in that first drop, if that makes sense. We're going to kind of go through again. So you'll notice the second drop is largely the same compared to the original, but that's okay because sometimes, and at least with what I was aiming for in this track, less ended up being more. Originally, I wanted a gnarly guitar solo that took all of the attention away from any other element in the track, and I tried that. I tried that for a whole day, and it just didn't really pan out the way that I wanted it to. And I ended up settling for this really nice sort of background lead that is designed to more or less carry through that section. So again, it carries a little bit of everything. The saw bus kind of just ended up bussing a bunch of stuff that I completely forgot about. You could tell I'm a little bit disorganized in my mixing yet. It's just, we're getting there, right? It's so much better than what it used to be. I didn't want it to really impede on what I liked about the first drop, which is those nice big synth stabs. It's just the way that I really enjoyed the track. And sometimes you don't need a new over the top element because again you're now going to be fighting for attention, or fighting for attention. It's like, okay, well, do I want the lead to overpower this? Do I want it? And it's just not going to sound like it's organized, that there's intention behind it, which is why we ultimately settled for a more subtle lead guitar, distorted ass arp lead loop thing, whatever you want to call it. Either way, it serves its point, and that's in a lot of ways what it is designed to be. You might even notice I changed a few vocal chop notes just because I still wanted to have that variation. So you'll hear like felt good in like a different, like, see, like that, but again, with the full context of everything, it sounds like it's just felt good. Or fuck it. Either way. I hear felt good. I'm just going to say it's felt good. But sometimes fuck it might work a little bit better. It's just some simple effects here. There's more of the feminine delay vocals. They do it to me. Guilty. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure y'all do. I blame Ellie Goulding. I think that she really did that to me. Okay, I did want to talk about these. So we're going back to this originally. And again, that is present. They just take more of a back roll in the actual drop. They're just kind of meant to be basic plucks to hit certain notes, kind of keep the bounce. They kind of come in and out. Like I said, I try to humanize the actual melody itself. It's not designed to be super intelligent outside of just basic pluck hitting with a little bit of reverb. And it just kind of holds up. I also did, I wonder if this was going to actually show it. I don't really like how FL renders its stems, but either that or I probably screwed it up somehow, one or the other. There is another section of this that actually pitches it up an octave directly, and it was designed so that way, again, we're building the stakes, and that is why I like to do, it's a very basic trick, but just to kind of change that, same thing with the pad, is to, I don't know, just kind of build that intensity. It's very simple. It's very fun. That's pretty much what I have to say. These are Vocodex Foley sound bites. I'm not sure if they work the way that they could have worked. Yep, so this is supposed to be under it. little bit, and these two, I believe, are supposed to go together as well. Like I said, FL is a bit disorganized, and I don't really like it. But that being said, whatever. We're gonna move on to the last little bite here. Then we're gonna move into the actual project file, and I can show you probably in better detail certain choices that are made. Then we're gonna move on to the artwork. Actually, you know what? We might just move on to the artwork next, and then we'll come back to the main project. I think that'll probably flow a little better, give us a break from the ears. Now we're gonna move on to the eyes. So this part is pretty basic. I went for almost like an acoustic cool down. I had a buddy who did live drums, like a live drum sample pack, and I just really liked them, and I just kind of felt that they would serve a nice, conclusive section, right? It would just kind of be a nice way to end the track. And then we end. I love, it's such a small detail. I love how it ends on the bird. Like, I just love that. And it just kind of goes down. Like, that to me is just so organic. And that was by accident. It just happened to sit there, so I didn't want to change it. I know it's a bit scuffed, but that is pretty much the project breakdown from a this isn't going to explode my computer point of view. Being said, we are still going to go into it, but I did want to move over to the artwork. Let's go ahead and open up this file, and I'll meet you all in just a second. Yo, we're back. What's up? Okay, thank you all for waiting. This is the art piece. So I want to talk a little bit kind of about the dilemma that I had with this piece. I'm at a kind of a point, a transitional period, I guess you could say, in my life, or at least in the life of That's Matt the Project, where I really want to keep the Western cowboy grittiness, but whenever you did so much disco and funk stuff for such a long time, man. I'm gonna be so real with you. I'm tired of it, low key. I got tired of trying to have some sort of forced disco element and a forced Western element whenever tracks kind of favored that. So I broadened up my visual representation, if you will. Now, in the case of this piece, it seems maybe a little bit disjointed, but I promise you this was intelligently placed. Or at least I like to think it was intelligently placed. I'm going to have somebody that's like a pro graphic designer be like, this is doo-doo, get out of here. But we're going to talk about things that we like about this, or at least that I like about it. So we're going to start. The colors. For whatever reason, since I started this piece, I just had the colors of yellow and purple in mind during this, and I really don't know why. It just kind of made sense to me. A motif for me is that I like to have a really rough texture across any piece of art that I do. I wanted to kind of communicate the rustic America, I call it Americana, the Americana energy where, there's like an old beat up 60s pickup truck that's sitting out in a field because, where I'm from, that is so unbelievably commonplace. I mean, we could talk about that a different day. But that being said, it's just local iconography. And I believe it represents part of the culture that I'm around. And it seems like everywhere in the design has something placed. And that was sort of the concept. That's the direction I ended up going with. We have the truck. We have what is meant to be a field that it is in where the truck is sitting on. And then I did some cool path blending stuff in here to make it look like just sort of like the ink is kind of like meshed together. It's just basic blend mode stuff if you ever use Photoshop. This specific set of geometry, like this dark line, just I don't know if it's subtracted. I don't know what the term would be, but basically it straight up just fit in so perfectly right there. And I'm like, I'm not moving that truck anymore. That truck is staying there. So I had to figure out almost everything else outside of the title of what I wanted to do specifically. I want to say yellow is sort of the primary color, is that it covers the most space, and purple is sort of the accent. I tried to give a few bits of purple content beyond just the truck, right? So I had this cool little shape that I did here. I really like this. I don't know what it is, but I love this like bar with these stars up here. It feels very American, but not. And I guess in a way, that's kind of what this is meant to be. Like that's Matt's brand voice and philosophy, because I've thought about this for so long. I've had 5 years to really sit down and try to kind of like logically put this together. I like parodying a lot of that country boy American type stuff, but there is a real appreciation for that. But I like having this more like satirical, like a dubstep twist. Like you take brutalist aesthetic that you see in like Barbara Beats or certain dubstep label art style, and then you mesh it with Western Appalachian culture. Like that's not really something that I see put together a whole lot. And I'm happy that this piece, I think, visually represents. This is the one of the few pieces that, like, I really like this one. I do like it. And not everybody who's going to look at it's going to truly make sense of it in the same way. But I feel like when I look at this artwork, I hear that song, vice versa. Like they work together well. It's just me, it's our story, it's our piece. That's just what it is. Now, let's actually get into some of the cool design things here. So again, every corner tries to have something. Vertical type, if you look closely, you can see some really nice texture overlays that I did. Again, big texture guy, right? Color base is a textured kind of sound. Yeah, this is what this is meant to do. So the song was called Felt Good Then. I have a weird rule where if the song that I have released prior only has 2 words, then the next release can only have 1 word or 3 words, sometimes 4 words. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird rule that I set for myself. I just like it because whenever I put songs in an EP, every song distinctly has that. It's not like I'm using 2 words every time or 3 words or 1 word every time. It's every song gets the time to really sit down. Since the previous song has 2 words, this one now has 3 words, the next song can have 1 or 2 words depending on the vibe, whatever I want to do. But I like that rule. It's weird. It just feels like so intrinsically tied to what I do, and I don't know why. But again, the typography here, I tried to come up with different ways to fill in empty space, right? So you have the artist name, the nickname, the cowboy. Instead of the disco cowboy, we've broadened it up since. And then I'm trying to normalize this. You got color base, but we were made in America. We're calling it American base, right? Like that's kind of the vibe here. The lady lips, it might seem a bit disjointed, right? But I mean, okay, first of all, who doesn't love some pretty lady lips in an art piece? I'm gonna be real with you. I like it. But I chose it because that since there's a lot of feminine voices that are in the piece, that feminine lips almost in a way describe it, and Felt Good Then. The story behind this piece is that you're kind of looking back, right? Like it's like, oh, it felt good then, but now where am I? That was actually going to be what this one was, but that's all I've got. Just kind of fit the geometry, like this space right here between the like the 2 L's and the A. It just fit really well with the white. This like white streak of geometry that you see here is an American flag. It's just like heavily stretched and distorted because I needed something white to kind of fill in all of this yellow while not adding too much black and it just kind of looking cluttered up there. I had like a graffiti piece in there at one point of like my artist name, but I kind of just left it out. A new motif that I've started just with this past release and what I'm going to try to do is I really like the idea of just literally telling you how long the song is. Just everyone. And the other one had, I think, 3 minutes and 8 seconds, 3 minutes and 35 seconds. And it's just a great functional way to give more information and more context behind the piece. So that way you just know what you're getting into. This was just placed here, again, just to kind of fill up space. I like doing this like that's Matt, engineered for American ears. That's kind of like my corny slogan these days. But again, it's made with love. It's made with fun. A few more notes that I wanted to say, like this fun fact, this right here, like these are weird lines. Subtle detail, and nobody else is going to know this, but I screenshotted, like I used snipping tool. I used SoundCloud and I snipped the actual waveform that it created and I stretched it and played around with some blend mode options to give it this purple texture so that way it matches the rest of this. If you look closely, you can see some pinks and reds or whatever, but you can also see a slightly darker green here. And in my brain, for the immersive aspect, I kind of like it there because it looks like, the paint has kind of washed. It's been worn. It's even in the sun too long. And again, I believe that texture really plays a big factor in how I design things. Like I said, blend mode, this just combines elements of the weed. A lot of it's blend mode stuff, like I said, but it gives it this rough texture. This has like 3 trucks layered on it, just with like different inverted layers. I don't really want to get into like the actual Photoshop part of it because it's a little bit lengthy. But that being said, I think this will pop in here. Like you can kind of see, like there's a lot of things going on in here for just a simple piece of, well, it's not really simple, actually it took a minute, but it's a piece of art, right? This is kind of the That's Matt aesthetic where it's going these days. So if you're invested in that, and if you're honestly interested in some really cool like graphic design tutorials, I'd be happy to share some cool techniques that I have and sort of my philosophy when it comes to choosing colors or organizing graphics. And I'm not a pro, but I'm very happy with how this piece turned out. Thank you for listening to this part, and we're actually going to go back into the original project file, and we are going to be in for a treat. All right, everybody, as promised, here is what the actual project file looks like. And it's going to be really funny because if you look, you're already starting to see some jumps, right? You see that? We're about to climb Mount Everest, right? This is going to be crazy. As you can see, it is very layered. There is a fair bit of composition here. But like I said, I find these random sample bites across the internet, right? Look at that. That jump so crazy. But again, this just utilizes those things that I was telling you about. Like again, basic octave increases, little sound choices here. Now listen, before somebody comes to the comment and says this, if you're even this far in this video, I know how to bounce to wave and like convert this into just a pre-rendered piece. I don't do it as much as I should, and it's a workflow thing that I'm personally working on, but I promise you I will start doing it more in the future so we can look at this raw in the project file. But I'm also going to let you know this computer's old AF. Like, I've had this thing since like right at COVID, right when COVID started, if not like slightly right before COVID started. She's getting old now. I love her though. She's done me really well. She's put a lot of effort in for me. I'm gonna be real with you. But just kind of please take it easy on me. I'm trying my best here. Like I said, rhythm drums. So we got that. I think there was something else we did want to look at. I think we actually wanted to look at the sound design a little bit here. Let me see what I can pull up that I can show you. We're going to go ahead and look at this. This just happened to be the selection of sounds. Some of these are pretty negligible, the difference if you were to just use like basic shapes and waveform stuff. But honestly, this is pretty much the shape that it took, I created. I'm not going to sit here and try to go through each thing because it's just not going to play back the way it should, I don't think. Hold on, no, that's not it. Let me grab this. One thing I do like to do and has really helped me, just noticing it, is to automate the unison. It just helps shape up the sound a lot more. It's a lot more, it adds a lot more dimension. And I think in the case of this track, at the very least, it really went well, especially whenever we did that mix decision, which is, again, philosophy behind rhythm. Big, right? Everything's got to kind of be placed and organized around it. So that way things don't sound super cluttered in the actual project itself whenever it's done. There is that, like I said, some basic composition stuff over here. This is me recording, but again, this is going to be one of those samples pack exclusives. I've already got it marked up and ready for us. So you'll have more options as far as that goes. It's already pretty much pre-colored, but you can always go in and try to find a way to manipulate it. Let's see what else might be interesting to look at. Oh yeah, one thing I did like is I love tape stop. Like, it's gonna be hard. I can't play it here because this is about to actually crash. All right, we'll play it anyway. I just want to torture y'all. You hear that? Oh, that was so good. I didn't mean to hurt y'all's ears. I'm sorry. Do not unsubscribe, please. I'm begging you. Like, some of these bubbles, I just found a random horse, and I'm like, okay, cowboy horse. Let's see what we can do with it. And that's what created some of these really bizarre textures, is with like Vocodex. But as you can see, this is what this looks like. And I just want to point into perspective, this is not really, I'm used to my projects going down to like here, but it's because I do a lot of sampling. This is more like composition focused, and most of the sampling I did sort of served as an accessory to the main core, to the main sounds that would then compose that. And I'll have more projects in the future. Some are even older, like way older than this, that I think are just worth going into, so we can talk about how we go about sampling old media and how we can make it sound really cool and apply some modern production techniques to it. I don't want to spend too much time in this project file because there isn't really going to be much that I can actually play for you. That being said, you'll notice there's a bit of some channel control here whenever it comes down to the guitar section, which we played again at the very end, if you remember. I don't want to try to play it. I'm not going to keep talking about it. But that being said, it's here. Shaper box occasionally pops in and out, and it helps. I have like a tape stop effect on that as well, and like a filter effect, I believe. And I chose to do that specifically because it helps kind of play into that swing, turn on, turn off, and that tied in with that tape stop effect it really just does wonders. So that being said, folks, I really think that this is probably it. That being said, I am very happy that all of you stuck around the song. If you ended up watching this entire way, I'd be hella impressed because this is a lot. I'm sure that nobody could really handle this. But again, if you like that long form content, let me know. This is a lot of fun to make. I'm happy that I was able to finally put this together and have something ready. Now, the actual project, this is going to be dropping out before the release itself. You'll just see it pop up. I'll make an announcement on my social media. And as you can see here on the overlay, you've got my Instagram, my Twitter, X, whatever the hell they call it these days. And that's Matt across, any music platform. Just look it up. It'll be there. If you have any feedback or ideas for what you would like to see in the future for future content, just shoot me a message, join my Discord, or leave a comment. Leave a like too if you're really feeling it. Bye-bye.